The Penre Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. http://wespenre.com. Present and Future Challenges, PFC, Section. PFC Paper Number 6, The Return of the Gods. By Penre, Saturday, June 24, 2011. 1. The Tribulation. If we are to believe prophecy, and in this case Bible prophecy in particular, we are currently living in the pre-tribulation, in wait for the Battle of Armageddon and the Lord's return. We are experiencing severe weather anomalies, major and unusual earth changes, pole shifts starting to happen, earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, birds falling dead from the sky, more mental instability, suicide trends increasing, violence, and self-centered living. The pre-tribulation period has just started though, and will continue until the Lord returns, approximately 2060 to 2095, when land and water will change position, and many people will die. More anomalies we will encounter are described in detail in my previous paper, PFC Paper Number 5, Present and Future Earth Changes and Their True Causes. In the Bible it is said that the tribulation will be 7 years, but I personally think that it may be longer, or else we are misled and Nibiru, and maybe the gods in particular, will arrive sooner than expected. 2. The Lord's Return. Now when we know that the planet Nibiru is on its way back into the solar system, another question needs to be asked: will the ETS from Nibiru come visit us? Well, let's start from the beginning. What is told in the traditional Bible and the Qumran Bible is correct: the Lord is returning. However, the Lord is not necessarily a person, but the planet Nibiru, or Marduk, as it's called as well, named after the eldest son of the Enki. And we know that the planet is inhabited. Yes, these gods will land on Earth, and it will not be in secret. There will be giants and monsters walking this earth again, and they will be armed. The monsters, demons, will most probably be the reptilian race that the Nibiruan A.A.M.I. work with. Other species may join as well, such as the Greys. Although they are here for the sake of war first, and peace later, we humans are supposedly not the target for these beings. According to LPGC members, who have attended the annual Link meetings, they are here to take care of their own and those who support them. This means that the earthbound Anunnaki, those who stayed behind and have been here for millennia, will be judged by the ones from the home planet, at least the ones who parted with Marduk, the king of Earth. There are other Anunnaki here, who are still loyal to the kingdom, and they will part with the A.A.M.I. from Nibiru when the time comes. 3. The Battle of Armageddon. It may seem like an easy task to take down the few Anunnaki still on Earth, believed to be 300 plus, loyal to Marduk, by the force from such a large number of Nibiru's soldiers. However, this is not the only ones who are going to be taken down. The Nibiruans will kill their own here on the ground, but spare the Lord's. Lord is a title, earned on the home planet due to bloodline. They are royalty. LPGC says they never kill a Lord, no matter what crimes he has committed. It has occurred, though, in war casualties happen. A Lord can be punished and sentenced by their law, but not killed. However, there is death penalty for their common people, apparently. This strikes me kind of funny for a race that has almost completed oneness. So what will happen within the next few generations is that the Nibiruan A.A.M.I. will come down to Earth in spaceships and land here, fully armed and ready to fight? They are, according to Dr. Borden, not only here to take care of their own disobedient race, but also to kill off anyone who has sided with Marduk, whether it's people in the governments, industry and trade, entertainment, education, banking, or any other institution and organization. Not only that, they will also kill regular people on the spot, whom have sided with Marduk's policies, wittingly or unwittingly, by intent or action. As A.R. Borden of LPGC put it, they are not very forgiving. Marduk was left here on earth to rule us and to get a chance to repent and become loyal to the kingdom while he was here, but from where I sit, it must have been quite predictable that Marduk would not repent during his 1000 years of more or less unchallenged dictatorship here. He is not closer to the kingdom now than he was then, probably even more detached. The Marduk side includes a big faction of the global elite and military complex, which is the major problem for the incoming. The military will side with Marduk, most of them deceived, thinking the intruders are the enemy. The military will fight until last man to protect countries and the world against this invader force of giants. The A.A.M.I. may communicate first with the United Nations and the Earth in general, before the attack, but who will believe them? Dr. Borden has said to me that in his meetings with the A.A.M.I. they are telling him they feel responsible for us humans because they created us and now want to help us stand on our own feet and become sovereign, which means the Anunnaki will eventually leave Earth for good, in our hands. Apparently, Borden has, in his own words, established a personal bond and friendship of sorts with their leader, the son of Namur/Enlil/YHVH/Yehovah, whose name is Nanner, the person who took over after Anu as the king of Nibiru in the 1400s. They are very angry and disappointed at the Anunnaki who were left behind. Instead they did the opposite, let power and greed take over, and continued interbreeding with humans. In addition, they continued their wars, created diseases and different scenarios to divide and conquer. Now they have to be held accountable, says the new king. Marduk, equivalent to Satan, in his pride believes he can defend Earth against the lords from Nibiru. He is well aware of what is planned and very savvy in biblical prophecy. After all, the A.A.M.I. dictated them. Just like what it says in the Bible, Marduk thinks he can win the battle with the help from joint military resistance, worldwide. He may declare martial law to fight this hideous invader force. World leaders may ask civilians to take to arms as well to join in to save the planet. No matter what the Nibiruans will tell us before they land, Marduk has already used his media propaganda machine to the fullest and will fool most of the world population. The reason he is so certain is because he has manipulated and mind-controlled the masses via media, Hollywood, education and more for so long to subconsciously build a mind-controlled population of obedient soldiers, who react like one on trigger words that bring implanted thoughts from the subconscious up to the surface of the analytical minds in people. These phrases, repeated in media over and over, will have people take combined actions to save the planet. It's very cleverly done, and this is one reason I am never watching TV and reading newspapers. Although I am aware of this agenda, I still don't want the influence from the media, because I know how easy it is to bury things in the subconscious, even when we think we don't. After all, the media is one big propaganda machine and the truth I do not get from the mainstream media. This is one big reason why I've said for so long that people need to stop watching the news and read the papers, or at least keep it to a minimum. Headlines and a few subsequent lines in the paper is enough to understand the overall purpose of an article. Same thing goes with new technology, like the latest cell phones etc. Aside from being tracking devices, they are also altering your frequency, so that you will be more receptive to what the elite wants you to do when time comes. HAARP is another great example, where the government, via a giant power station in Alaska, is sending out ELF, extremely low frequency, which will have a large amount of people vibrate in a frequency range which is meant to be common to all, a frequency which can then be used, and is already used, for programming. This is done in combination with the media triggers mentioned above. Then, when the perpetrators so wish, they can use this frequency to steer the masses in unison into a devastating war. Hitler did something similar, less sophisticated but very successful when he managed to manipulate the majority of the German people to go to war. 4. And the Lord will reign for 1,000 years. The outcome, again if we believe Bible and other prophecies, will be that King Nanner will beat the forces opposing his mission and thus be the victor. Marduk will be thrown into the bottomless pit where he will dwell for 1,000 years. The other lords, who have supported Marduk will probably be transported back to their home planet, unless they already died in battle. There they will stand before a Nibiruan Council of Justice and get the appropriate, for the A.A.M.I people, verdict. The plan is then to gather the people of Earth under one flag-a one world government led by a skeleton crew from Nibiru, who will spend the next 1,000 years or more to teach humankind to be sovereign and be able to defend ourselves against outside invaders in the future. Then, at least according to prophecy, Marduk for some reason will rise again and reign for a short time, before he is finally defeated. How this will pan out is still a mystery. However, after that, the Anunnaki will pack and leave the planet once and for all, and it will then be completely ours. I argued with Dr. Borden about why we need the skeleton crew at all. Haven't we had enough of these people ruling us? Thus far, it has only led to disaster, and after all, these beings are pretty warlike, obsessed with sex and bloodline, and can be quite aggressive and are rather non-spiritual. His reply was that he would also prefers that we don't have a skeleton crew here, but that it's probably inevitable, because each planet is looked upon as real estate by aliens. Who owns a planet is a big deal, and if you can't defend your real estate, you're going to lose it. With that, he doesn't mean we will be in recurring wars with aliens from other planets who want to take over, no matter what, but it does mean we have to be very clear as a species what we are available for, and what we're not. We have to claim our right to the planet and be serious about it, and same thing about our rights to our biokind, and those imperatives cannot be compromised. If we can unite in this, most aliens will respect that. But if we again are allowing ourselves to be tricked and taken over by outside forces, we are still not adults enough to defend our real estate. This is the theory behind why we need a skeleton crew, apparently. In addition, I asked Dr. Borden why we can be so sure that the A.A.M.I can be trusted. Look at their history: war, jealousy, obsessive sex addicts, genetic manipulators, and slave drivers, using us as their foot soldier in their own petty wars over real estate and power status, killers, committers of genocide, homicide. The list is endless. I am aware that these beings also taught us things like agriculture, astronomy, astrology, and a lot of other useful things, but it is my understanding that they did this with the intentions for us to support the gods, not for us to be self-sufficient so we can claim the planet. And the fact remains that these beings have huge problems within their own lines, and they are a warrior race. They were the ones who taught us warfare as well. The reply I got was that since the Sumerian times, the A.A.M.I have evolved quite significantly and are now a much more peaceful and very loving species. Dr. Borden says he can testify to this from his own communication with them face-to-face and mind-to-mind. Also, in Chapter 8 of his 2007 essay, The Link, he further states that in one of the annual meetings with them, the A.A.M.I told him, and the rest of the group from what I understand, that their species have now almost completed their cycle to oneness, wherein all knowledge and mind resources are used in service to the common. Although Borden is not exactly sure how they have accomplished this, but suggests it is similar to Schumann's resonance, which means that when the diversity of biominds of each member remains an individuality while simultaneously being interconnected to the A.A.Me. All one by low-powered, low-energetic means that utilizes the planet's life belt energetics. He continues by saying that, however, it is beyond our level of technology at this time to understand how it is being done. What we know is that the A.A.M.I is a highly technologically evolved species, and the longevity issue is high on their priority list. They already have the technology to extend their lives considerably, and it sounds to me that they are using technology to create oneness rather than doing it by raising their frequency naturally, by evolving spiritually, mentally, and biologically. If so, it is not the path we here on Earth want to go down, in my opinion. And who wants to live for thousands, if not millions of years? We may want to extend it with a few hundred years, but after that, the burden of having the same body, at least in third density, and mind more than that I believe is counterproductive for the individual and the species. And I feel strongly that oneness is not something we want to accomplish through technology whatsoever. It has to be earned from hard work of each individual of a species, until the frequency is raised amongst the whole species from the work of individual by individual and individual to individual. Shortcuts will kick back. We want to connect in mass consciousness naturally and not through technology. There is something strange with this Nibiruan species, and I have reasons to believe that they are not like us and cannot evolve like we do. I will do more research on this before I release what I've found, in the second level of learning. A big problem for ETS in general is our stage of development. We are going through an adolescent stage at the moment and we've learned how to split the atom and how to create negative energy. When this happens, ETS all over the galaxy and beyond become on alert. This is a critical point in the evolution of a species, because this is where it can go either way, termination of our planet, like what happened to the Zeta Gray, or we can get responsible and use our technologies and knowledge for the greatest good of humanity. However, we are not using it responsibly, and this doesn't only affect us and our planet, but also the rest of the galaxy and in certain terms our whole universe. When we use negative energy, we borrow it from positive energy elsewhere and it works like when you're pressing a balloon anywhere but in the middle, it blows up on one end and diminished on the other. And what we borrow we must return for the sake of the balance of the universal energies. We are not paying back, and this means that not only will our own sun die prematurely, but also other stars around us and even much further away. Dr. Borden has not said this, but under the circumstances, his group may feel we, as humankind, have no better choice than to welcome the A.A.M.I. and let them do their job. That would take care of the negative energy misuse and other issues not accepted by galactic rules and regulations. However, this implies that we believe what the A.A.M.I. tell us. I can see the dilemma LPGC sits in. They want to play their cards just right, and very carefully, because they want to keep their chairs in the link meetings with the aliens. But like Ed Komarak, the well-known UFO researcher said, and I paraphrase, if the aliens Borden is meeting with don't want him to expose any, or very little, of what is said in the meetings to the public, what hidden agenda is behind the secrecy? We don't want another little NSA. It certainly sounds like LPGC is stuck between the devil and the returning rock, to quote the title of their own essay. I don't envy their position. Five Anu stepping down from the throne. According to Dr. Borden in his essay, The Link, Chapter 8, Anu announced already decades before the birth of Christ that he was stepping down and needed a successor. This was big news, and the Anunnaki, still here on Earth, more or less left what they were doing and went back home to Nibiru. Ankur, the Enki, and Namur, the Enlil, who belonged to different clans, the Serpent Clan and the Ram Clan, respectively, started lobbying actively and aggressively to promote someone from their own camp as Anu's successor. LPGC's intel is showing that the lobbying was very dramatic. King Anu wanted a bloodless, coup-less succession, announcing he would choose his successor, depending on how well he had performed while on Earth. Ankur and Namur were themselves candidates, but considered out of the question for succession due to their performance while down here. Marduk and Ninurta were also disqualified due to unlordly behavior. Not sure what unlordly means exactly, but King Anu was the one who authorized the nukes to be dropped over the Sinai spaceport and Sodom and Gomorrah among other things, so I guess that the king is exempted from unlordly behavior. The following is paraphrased from Dr. Borden's above essay, but is sticking quite closely to the original. The reason for this is that the section in question is very important, because it has, in my opinion, a lot to do with how the A.A.M.I's minds work, their imperatives, and how they affect us. From that, we need to make decisions what we want to do. However, I strongly suggest you read the original essay from beginning to end, because we all need to know what is written in there. It can be downloaded for free in my ebooks section. I am paraphrasing from page 54 and on. When King Anu decided to step down, there was a fast and furious Anunnaki exodus from Earth to participate in the lobbying for whatever clan they belonged to. Marduk and Ningishzida, both sons of Ankar and their families left, which had as a consequence that the smelting operations in Bolivia closed down. Ankar's son Nergal, his consort, Nanar's daughter Arakigal and Namur were apparently the first to return to Nibiru, together with King Anu's grandson Ninurta and consort. Members of the Ram clan led by Namur, whom also left, were Nanar and consort Ikar, Adad, Inanna, Anan, Nain, and some others. They went to a platform, waiting to be transported back home. Apparently, Nanar and his consort returned to Earth for a short time period, to northern Syria, but then returned to the platform again. The reason being that the Enlil, his father, and King Anu, his grandfather, told them to return to Altiplano of northeastern Peru, in the mid to late 2nd century of the Common Era to help Nanar's son, U2 to close down the smelter at Asacsayhuaman as well as the dismantling of runway operations in the Nazca area of southern Peru. The smelter was still producing gold, tin, and silver from distant and nearby sources from relocated Kassites, southern and central Turkey. The operation stopped before the first millennium of the Common Era. Sometime in the 6th century CE, Sacsayhuaman shut down and the pre-Incan civilizations from northern Peru through the region north of the Atacama Desert in northern Chile were all left to fend for themselves. Other colonies, like North American Midwest, southeastern and southwestern native groups who came in contact with and were instructed by the Anunnaki on agricultural, animal husbandry and other matters, were also disengaged and eventually abandoned in the 7th and 8th century AD. 5.1 Political dramas on the home planet. When all the royal Anunnaki had returned to Nibiru, their usual aggressive traits played out again, and there was a furious contest to bring King Anu's attention. Ankar and Namur led their clans, respectively, in order to bring either themselves or someone of their blood to the royal throne. Both Ankar or Namur were appointed to serve under something the king now called the Kitchen Cabinet, which was the former Council of 12, but in a slightly watered-down form. Others, appointed were trusted A.A.M.I, many of them familiar to us through these papers I've written, and of course, through Sitchin's books originally. King Anu had many matters on his mind, whereof one was the destruction of the Sinai spaceport around 2500 BC. I am not sure in what sense he was concerned about that, because it was in fact King Anu himself whom approved the nuclear bombings. See previous Anunnaki paper. Another matter, naturally, was the royal succession. However, the most urgent matter was the Marduk issue. Marduk, Ankar's son and the king's grandson, still held grudges after all these thousands of years, thinking he should be the king of Nibiru and the king of Earth at the same time. It showed that when Marduk returned to Nibiru with the rest of the Anunnaki crew, most of them strongly supported him in his mission. Of the approximately 400 Anunnaki who left Earth to come back to Nibiru, around 300 of them supported Marduk. Apparently, at some time after they all had returned home there was some kind of severe confrontation between the Ram and the Serpent clan, although it is not clear to what extent. Dr. Borden and LPGC got this intel from AA.A.M.I, who spoke up during annual meetings with the Alien Link group, apparently when forced to do so by the rest of the members, not only humans. This conflict, however, turned out favorable to a candidate, who was not on the king's list, Nanar, the Enlil's son. Marduk was already out of the question for succession, because King Anu had created a new, firm policy that everybody had to swear loyalty to the king, personally, and to the kingdom. No one was excluded from this new policy. Marduk and his followers, in particular, were furious over this, because he would never swear loyalty to the king, nor the kingdom. He had other plans. Also, around 2025 BC, with the new zodiacal era, the A.A.M.I/Anunnaki were very much into astrology. Marduk falsified the astrological charts to his favor, so he could quicker come to power on Earth, and he also took on the task to rewrite Earth history, especially the early history, how humans came about, when that happened and when the Anunnaki came down. He also wanted to make sure that he was considered the only god and authority, so he put himself in charge of all occult and secret societies and rewrote their manuals as well and claimed the highest, hidden authority over them all. This way, he has access to all information and intel, and thus full control over a big chunk of humanity. In addition, Marduk was also attempting to construct a 6-stage ziggurat strong enough to support a landing platform at its apex. This is currently underway in Iraq. Despite all these things, talking against Marduk, and for him being a potential dangerous rebel in the eyes of the king and the kingdom, his father Enkur, the Enki, did all he could to support and shield his firstborn son. Enkur, sitting on the Council of 12, as well as his half-brother Namur, made things a little tense to say the least. Through internal familial politicking, Marduk managed to get Ningishzida ousted and exiled to the New World first, in particular the American Southwest, Mexico and the highlands of Peru and Bolivia, and then to the Far East, where he met and worked with U2 in Japan, coastal China, the Korean Peninsula, and the Asian highlands of Nepal and Tibet on tasks and projects with natives not disclosed to LPGC. What we do see, however, is the enormous global influence this Anunnaki group has had on humankind. Ningishzida also became Quetzalcoatl in Mexico, often, but not always, depicted in reptilian form. Now, when Marduk refused to obey to the rules, he was said to have been put in the equivalent of quarantine, common in A.A.M.I culture under such circumstances when comes to lords, they told. This did not stop him, however, and he continued to refuse to show obedience to any and all important laws and regulations of the A.A.M.I kingdom. This put both his father and grandfather in a position where the king had no other choice than to expel Marduk and tell him to leave and go back to Earth, to never be able to return again to the planet of his birth. From what LPGC has been told, Marduk returned to Earth with about 300 loyalists around the turn of the first millennium of the Common Era, 1000 AD. Interesting here is that it is now officially admitted by the A.A.M.I people that Marduk rewrote at least part of our history, but we are not told exactly what he rewrote. It's too hard to speculate on it, because it can't be more than that speculations, but there are some significant point made by metaphysical sources, the Pleiadians, the Ra material, Lissa Royal's channeling, Asha Yanadine, the wing makers, the list goes on, that we humans were highly evolved beings before the Anunnaki came and chased away the creator gods, who were building the living library. It was when the Anunnaki started tampering with our DNA to create obedient, but not too smart, workers that the problems started. We can read about the Anunnaki history on Earth through the Sumerian cuneiform texts, but there is no real history about what happened before these creator gods came. If it wasn't for the metaphysical entities, who have told us what happened before the intruders came, we wouldn't know anything about the living library and previous creator gods. Dr. Borden is saying something quite remarkable in his essay in relation to that Marduk and his followers returned to Earth. Anu had a very hard time choosing his successor, having to be very careful whom he chose, not to create political consequences way beyond his own death. Dr. Borden continues, it would split both the people and the bio-mind. Such an act would carve out a huge chunk of A.A.M.I. Kalyumdi all end is end life, that of being one power. This, we were told, is the power of the entire A.A.M.I population to act as one, like a single degree of freedom organism, under certain circumstances. I find this quote quite informative, as it indicates to me that this is not freedom, but some kind of effort of the A.A.M.I leadership to get their population under control under the guise of being one. Becoming one is nothing that can be forced on someone by rules and regulations, it's a personal thing. It also has nothing to do with nanotechnology or any other technology either, for that matter. And moreover, the king of Nibiru has his people swear total obedience to the kingdom or be expelled, which is not power of choice, free will or freedom at all, it's dictatorship. Haven't we had enough of that? 5.2 The New King and the Second Coming. Sometime in the 1400s AD, the old King Anu stepped down. After finally had made a decision he was proud of, his successor would be one of the most unexpected of them all, Nannar, son of Namur, the Enlil. He was a big part of the earth history, also known under the name Sin. Circumstances of which former King Anu hadn't taken into consideration made him make this decision, with the help of Ningishzida, who was the one coming with the suggestion. Ningishzida said he was certain that Nannar was perhaps the only one who could unite the people again, and that he also had the life force similar to Anu. Besides, he had been quite popular among the Earthlings, allegedly. This was quite an unusual gesture, because Ningishzida was the son of Ankur the Inki and Nannar was of the opposing clan. Anu saw the brilliance in this choice, according to the intel LPGC have gathered, and he soon made his decision official. Nannar was now the new king of Nibiru and the A.A.M.I. people and is up to this day. Marduk, who was expelled from his original world, has been a major player in Earth's history over the last millennium. He and his 300 or so Anunnaki followers have controlled major organizations, institutions, governments, political parties, religions, educational systems, entertainment, and not the least, secret societies from behind the scenes, and it's not been in our favor, that is just the fact. However, as Borden is also quick to point out, he is one of the big players, but not the only player. There are more ET races and bands of ET races, physical and non-physical, who have dominated mankind for a long time, some of them side by side, and in opposition to Marduk. The fight for power has been an endless drama throughout history, and it has not only been between factions of Anunnaki that would have been bad enough, but there are more which we shall go into in other papers. But keep in mind that the Anunnaki is a widespread term, and we know today that they work together with both the Greys and the Reptilians, and some other races as well, which we shall reveal with time. 6. We don't need no Anunnaki, we don't need no thought control. It's not an easy situation for us here on Earth. The living library is desirable real estate, and it's been fought over since it was created, perhaps a billion years ago, or more, by the original creator gods. The question is, what should we do? I have had a flood of communication going back and forth between me and Dr. A.R. Borden, as a representative both for himself and LPGC, being one of the founding scientists. Borden was himself abducted by the A.A.M.I. on more than one occasion in his youth, however, not always unwillingly so. Just like I feel that I have things I need to do both for my own sake and that of others on this planet who are willing to feel out my thoughts, so does Dr. Borden. LPGC have been taking on the role of self-appointed ambassadors for Earth in the absence of unity amongst mankind. They felt the situation was urgent and decided to speak on our behalf. Some would argue that we don't need ambassadors in the first place. The truth is, they don't. And they know it. Still, due to the circumstances, it seems like they were left with little choice in the matter. Life happens all around us and above and below us every day, and if we all were aware of what's going on in exopolitics and among off-world species in relation to ourselves and our planet, we would be able to consult our ambassadors, and they us, and everything would be easier, not the least for them who have to be our consciousness. Knowing what they know, they feel they need to act in one way or the other. I think it's a little more complicated than that, though. For reasons I can't go into at this point, I have seen indicators of that. At least Dr. Borden made an agreement with the A.A.M.I. more than once in Sitter Space to start LPGC and continue the mission he is now on, a mission we still don't know enough about. Apparently, what is being discussed and planned in the link meetings with what Borden calls the plenum, the human and off-world non-government representative of the different member species, both active and spectator groups, is, that first of all, we humans have to show what our true imperatives are as a species, and not only what is suggested by a representative group like LPGC, who does not officially have the backup from the people. If approximately 3% of humankind can come together and present some common imperatives, the plenum will listen and accept this for the record. However, if we keep being scattered, ignorant, and non-caring in general, no one will take us seriously, and the real estate called Earth is for anyone to grab. This planet will not be considered ours, as little as we would consider birds or cats being in charge of our planet. There are quite a few things that bother me with the above reasoning. In summary, 1a.a.m.e/Nibiru year is about 3,600 Earth years, 1 and these beings live a very, very long time, in our terms. IR is nothing for them. To me it's quite astonishing if King Nanner has managed to unite his people since the 1400s, which is in no time, from their point of view. The internal conflicts and civil unrest amongst the A.A.M.I. people have been an ongoing saga for millions, perhaps billions, of Earth years, so it sounds to me most unlikely. The conflicts and separateness were still very much major factors just before Nanner became king, as described earlier in this paper. If, after all, Nanner really has managed to unite people, it's only because he's used technology to do so. Loyalty to the kingdom is a must for the A.A.M.I. people to be accepted, as we already know, and this alone doesn't seem like a true unification to me, more like an enforced one. Someone is making the rules, and the rest are forced to follow, and when they do, it's called oneness. Why would we, or anybody, trust them? They have showed over and over again that they are a very immoral, combating warrior race, obsessed with sex and power. To believe that they should have changed so drastically so suddenly is naive to me. Let's pretend that the new king actually is serious when comes to helping us stand on our own feet. Still, we would have to trust that this skeleton crew, yet another crew left on their own here on Earth, just like in the past, is as united as they want us to believe and not start fighting internally again. To me, it sounds like the odds that history will repeat itself are pretty big. I can understand that LPGC feel that they are backed into a corner, and that we actually don't have a choice in the matter. According to members of the plenum, there are two major achievements we as a species need to accomplish. We need to have a 3% unity, able to present the imperatives of the human race. We need to decide whether we can stand on our own feet or need help to do so. If we are to take this seriously, these are enormous goals to achieve. When we look around, we see how ignorant people are around us, and few would take something like this seriously at this point. When I discuss some of these issues with Dr. Borden, he agrees with me that we are still not sure if being supervised by a Nibiruan crew would be in our best interest, but it's one option. It's not up to LPGC to decide. Our first goal is to make enough people aware of our challenges, not only those with the Nibiruans, and from there decide what kind of future we want, says Borden. One thing seems certain, as the information is drawn from many different sources, obviously separate from each other, the A.A.M.I. are coming back, and not everybody thinks that's a good thing. Some say they are coming back now because we are evolving into higher frequencies and dimensions, and they are not. Therefore, they come back to feed off our emotions once again, emotions being food for them, and it depletes us from ours, like vampires sucking your life force. They have forgotten who their own creator gods are, and that they are not the top of the totem pole. We have also from reliable metaphysical sources that master geneticists, like the Anunnaki, are capable of occupying many different forms, either meaning they are shapeshifters of sorts, Marciniac, or that they themselves have tampered with their own genetics to the extent that they have changed forms. The Pleiadians are emphasizing that these beings are shapeshifters and interdimensional, and some of them are reptilians while others are not, and this was before Ik started saying the same thing. If this is all true, the returning gods are certainly bad news. Barbara Marciniak, channeling the Pleiadians, continues in her excellent book, Bringers of the Dawn. When these beings Anunnaki, or the Lizzies as the Pleiadians used to call them, return to Earth, there will be many of you who will turn to them and say, yes, these are wonderful gods. I feel wonderful about them. They are so magnificent. Look what they can do. Some of these gods will seem to fix and save your world. This is where it will be easy to miss the bigger picture. It will look as if they are coming to fix and save your world when, in actuality, what they are doing is simply creating another form of authority and control, emphasis not an original. What we are saying is that people will put a belief system and a paradigm on these entities. There will be a large marketing program to sell the presence of these entities to you. This program is already going on. Note that the above was channeled already in 1992. With all the intel I've gathered, and the material available on this subject that I have taken part of, where some is pro-Anunnaki returning, others are against, and some are indecisive about it, I can't help but coming to a very similar conclusion as the Pleiadians did 19 years ago. They knew what were coming down the pipes, and there is indeed a great promotion for the returning of the gods, and many are working behind the scenes to help them, such as the German, British, American, and Swiss Thule Order, described in details in my previous ebook, The Myth Around Supreme David Rockefeller. They are working on opening stargates on our end to let some of these gods through. Others are working on this, perhaps unbeknownst of what is coming down the line, and LPGC may be one of these organizations. If they think they can be ambassadors for the gods once they have cleansed our planet, I'm afraid they are up for a surprise. Still, the gods would not have as much of a chance to establish a new kingdom here on Earth without help from our brightest minds. But even our most brilliant people can be deceived. It sounds to me that the return of the gods is just a carefully planned takeover of our planet. It's time for the changing of the guards, and once again, these beings want to rule in the open instead of behind the scenes. If you haven't already, read my Anunnaki papers, and especially paper number 5, Abraham, Moses, and the Chosen People. If that doesn't support that the Anunnaki are feeding off our emotions, I don't know what would. The Enlil, here in the form of YHVH, shows off as the cold-blooded murderer he was, and while telling his chosen people not to kill in his 10 commandments, he afterwards ordered them to kill thousands of people who did not obey the Anunnaki God. YHVH himself killed hundreds of thousands of people in the name of worship and religion. Afterwards, he must have felt well fed, thanks to ignorant human beings, who gladly went into his trap and obeyed his insane orders unconditionally. Many who read this paper will find they come to the same conclusions as I do, and it's important that we exclude the return of the gods from our possible future. We need to get together and raise our vibrations, become more like light beings and become unconditional love. We have to set our imperatives, and those imperatives do not include the Anunnaki ruling us in fear and terror for at least another 26,000 years, when we get a new chance to evolve in the sense we do now. That's when the solar system align with the galactic center in this fashion next time. But the best chance to break what Neil Freer calls the God's spell is now, at this very moment in time, and we are running late. See my solution papers for more details. We need to become sovereign and not depend on gods, aliens, governments, and whatnot for decision making. We are our own gods, and though we are considered being at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of cosmic intelligence and technical advancement, we have something few other biokins have: a wide range of emotions and RNA/DNA from many different, highly spiritually evolved beings, who created us before the Anunnaki came down. We have a lot of power of our own, and we are knocking on the multidimensional doors right now. Previously they were closed, because we didn't even know which doors to knock on, but now more and more people have found them. We knock gently and reluctantly at first, and the doors open just a little bit, but now we are beginning to gain more certainly and knock harder. And lo and behold, the doors fly open and our connection to the multidimensional existence happens quickly and surely. We are finding that the multiverse is not out there, but within ourselves, and that revelation alone is freeing us from our vibrational prison. We were talking about Marduk changing the records of their own history on Earth, and I asked the rhetorical question, what exactly did he change? First of all, I think Marduk was not the only one of the Anunnaki who changed history. History, as they say, is written, or told, by the winners, and there were many winners and losers in the endless battles the gods fought against each other. Being full of themselves, I'm sure they told their workers, Homo sapiens sapiens, their version of history. I believe that the most blatant lie they told the Sumerian people was that we are coming from apes with low intelligence and primitive lifestyle, and that the Anunnaki sped up the process by manipulating our RNA/DNA. Now the A.A.M.I. are using their triumph card, that they were the ones creating us, or rather upgraded us from apes to Homo sapiens sapiens, and hence sped up our evolution with millions of years. So in other words, we should be grateful to them and forgive them for what was done to us in the past. Every cell in my body tells me this is wrong. But why would we believe channeled, metaphysical sources, then? Well, once we've felt them out and understand why they are here, and have checked their credibility, not all of them are here in the best of our interests. These entities, who have the ability to read our energy fields and that of the planet, can see our past the way it really happened on our current common timeline, and in addition, many of these sources were part of the creation and thus have first-hand experiences with our planet. Some of them are even us in the future, so they are speaking of theirs and ours pasts, respectively, but from a multidimensional viewpoint. I consider these sources pretty reliable. Still, that's not what's most important, but what do you feel inside to be the truth and what does not sit well with you? Trust your inner self. Something I have not been able to prove at this point is the theory I have that Marduk's clan and the A.A.M.I. on the home planet are basically on the same side, and it's just a game to fool us humans into taking sides in a battle where the winner is the same, no matter which side wins. We have been suppressed for so long now that people start seeing through the oppression and they are waking up from their sleep. The A.A.M.I. always knew this would happen, and not to lose their real estate they had to put on a little show, starting with creating prophecy. We have to remember that these people think long thoughts, and a few 10,000 years of thinking ahead is nothing for them, like it would be for us thinking a month ahead. Now, when we wake up, one by one, two by two, they come down from the heavens pretending to be on our side. They will turn man against man, possibly in the most devastating war we've ever seen, the Battle of Armageddon, using weapons of mass destruction that are not even imagined yet in the SF literature. The outcome will be a vastly reduced population which can easily be managed by a skeleton crew and the reptilian gatekeepers. So in reality, Marduk and the home planet are siding with each other, turning man against man. Sounds unlikely? Not if we look at the history of these people. We think we know who they are, and particularly, how they are. These people have erased our memories of them, most probably more than once. Listen to this. The original planners, the Vegans and the Lyrans, inserted a source code into our DNA that is activating now, see previous papers. Over time, the A.A.M.I/Anunnaki, while doing their genetic experiments on us, found out that this source code exists and will wake humanity up in the near future, from their time perspective, or maybe they knew from the beginning, although not likely, as they may have kidnapped Lyrans to get the secret out of them, perhaps through torture. There is always a chance they knew the Lyrans wouldn't speak no matter what torture they used. Or even more likely, the A.A.M.I. didn't find out about the source code until the Lyrans had left. Now the A.A.M.I. desperately try to find it, and so do the faction of the Greys who are abducting humans, but can't. The original planners knew they hid it well enough so that it couldn't be found by any intruders. Instead of attempting to find something which is more or less impossible to find, they decide to make sure humankind remains as distracted as possible during the nanosecond, 1987 to 2012, so most people stay asleep. They understand that it may not be possible to stop some of us from ascending, but that may be an acceptable loss to them. Their problem is the population of 7 billion people. I'm sure the reptilian gatekeepers and the earthbound Anunnaki have had a hard time keeping us in check sometimes. The answer for them is always war. So why not create a war greater than any before to reduce the human population down to 500 million, which has been the plan for so long. It's not happened yet because the A.A.M.I. are supposed to take care of that part. And the global elite have probably been promised to be spared in the Armageddon battle. After all, it's the A.A.M.I. and their reptilian cohorts who are feeding them. If we think about it, why would Anu, the former A.A.M.I. king, all of a sudden get an epiphany about that he should turn Earth over to the humans and then leave someone with Marduk's mindset here to rule on Earth with an iron fist for a few thousand years? Additionally, they destroy a big chunk of our planet by nuking Sodom, Gomorrah, and other cities, plus the Sinai spaceport, making the area highly radioactive up until this day, mercilessly killing the humans they just said should own the planet, and as destructively as possible, many of them leave. Where's the compassion in that? Isn't it more likely that they left Marduk here because they knew he would rule us with an iron fist, and that's exactly what they wanted? To keep humanity oppressed and obedient while the rest of the A.A.M.I. were gone, doing business elsewhere? And in the middle of everything, the reptilians are helping Marduk, maybe from bases on the moon and other planetary bodies in the solar system. Yes, Marduk may have been rebellious towards the kingdom since young age and felt mistreated, but how loyal/disloyal is he when it comes down to it? Ronald Reagan and others have said that in case of an invasion from outer space, humanity would finally be united in a global effort to defeat them. Yes, that is what we are getting prepared for. Thus, when 7 to 9 feet tall humanoids, together with demon-like reptilians and other strange creature, as if directly taken from the Bible, which they are in certain terms, come down in spaceships, most people will side with the governments, on which Marduk's clan is pulling the strings. Of course, people don't know how this is orchestrated, and a devastating world war will take place where man fights against man, gods fight against man, and man fights against gods. Others, who think they've seen through it, will join with the incoming, but it doesn't matter, because they are one and the same. It's just a big deception. When it's all over, the A.A.M.I. has won and the remaining humanity is now at their mercy. The A.A.M.I. species is a conquer race. Why would they voluntarily give up real estate they once won in battle? They have conquered other worlds as well, according to LPGC and many metaphysical sources as well. It would be interesting to see how they manage those worlds and look for similarities. These were just my thoughts on this subject, but let's go on and relay the story LPGC and the A.A.M.I. themselves are telling us. The above concerns raise even more questions, and I'm sure that you, the reader, have a few as well. We will continue this discussion in much more details in the solution papers, but at least the cards are on the table, and we have no choice but go from here. The Wes Penre Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. http://wespenre.com. Present and Future Challenges, PFC, Section. PFC Paper Number 7, More on Artificial Intelligence, Increased Longevity and Nanotech, The Path of the Gods. By Wes Penre, Thursday, July 7, 2011. The journey here is about self-discovery in relationship to others. Barbara Marciniak, Bringers of the Dawn, p.218. 1. Abstract, the fine balance between science and metaphysics. It is easy to get affected by others' viewpoints, in this case I mainly mean off-worldly, on how we should evolve and behave here on Earth, especially if there is a group which we feel is challenging us and put our feet to the fire. And how about if these off-worldly beings do this from a surprisingly emotionless state of mind? This will induce fear, even a certain sting of hopelessness, and these emotions may color our choices as a human race. I hear from both LPGC writer and researcher George Lobuono, Alex Collier and the Andromedons, and others, that the aliens more than once have threatened to interfere with our evolution if we don't shape up as a species and stop destroying our planet, ourselves and other planets and galaxies in the vicinity due to our misuse of negative energy. They have even thought of terminating us as a species. Author and researcher, George Lobuono, explains in his Alien Mind how civilizations go through different stages, and we are like adolescents now. It's a critical time in the history of mankind, because we are wobbling at the edge of the cliff and everybody out there is holding their breath if we're going to fall down or not. I can see how aliens are concerned over how we're going to handle the stage of our development, because our misuse of negative energy is alarming and our arrogance level high. Not only are we about to destroy our own species and our planet, but it will also affect other parts of the universe, as we, simplistically speaking, are borrowing energy from other parts of space in a balloon effect and thus deplete that space of energy without paying back. This will decrease the longevity of star systems and galaxies close to us, and in larger terms, when this is done by other civilizations as well, which it is, the longevity of the whole universe. So it's no wonder aliens are concerned and monitor us closely. If worse comes to worse, they may actually terminate us as a species if we don't learn our lessons, but save the living library otherwise and just start over, seeding a new species, perhaps. It would not be the first time. So it's all up to us. We can't blame everything on a global elite or even malevolent aliens behind the scenes. We ordinary humans are the majority and the responsibility is ours. I doubt we will be granted sovereignty of this planet if we can't even stand up for ourselves, and instead of coming together and stop being lazy, prefer to watch football games on TV. 1.1. Waking up the sleeping giant. It's time to wake up to reality, which here is defined as our joint current moment and what is happening around us at this present time, and how the choices we make now will directly affect our future. The reason we have been taken so much advantage of is solely because of our ignorance, sometimes self-inflicted. We don't want to hear no evil, nor see no evil, and it always kicks back on us. We can almost look at it as demon or entity possession on a grand, planetary scale. Where there is ignorance, fear, and low vibrations, entities come in and take advantage of the sleeping population. In this case we have different alien species fighting over dominion of Earth, the real estate and its inhabitants, even being able to do so without the knowledge of billions of people. This in itself can look like a discouraging situation, but it may only take a big shake-up to wake the sleeping giant, we humans. I am trying to wake the giant up before the shake-up will be too traumatic. Metaphorically speaking, if we think we can avoid a car accident to happen, why would we look the other way? Our impulse would be to help, wouldn't it? An accident is about to happen very soon, but we still can avoid it from happening. Albeit, what is planned for our future by forces whom might seem to have our best interest in mind, but don't, in my opinion, is no accident. There are those among us with a talent to convince the masses, who are wittingly, or unwittingly, attempting to steer us in a very dangerous direction. We are now talking about alien technology and artificial intelligence, AI. I don't mean that all alien technology is bad or dangerous. Some of it can be very helpful and something we may want to look into, but the danger lies in how it is used. We are already using lots of alien technology, mostly within the military-industrial complex, no surprise. Other is used by all of us on a daily basis. I am using it now. When I am writing this I am using a computer and a word processor. Technology is neutral, it's not good nor evil, it's neutral. It won't do much unless there is a higher consciousness which programs it. So it depends on how it's programmed and what it's used for. But even that is Stone Age today. Our future, if certain factions of ETS and humans will have their way, is artificial intelligence and enhanced longevity, created with technology. These two goals are what we are mainly going to discuss in this paper. If we let certain scientists and their followers do as they please, where will it take us? I have mentioned elsewhere that science and religion, and metaphysics, need to merge for humanity to be whole and be able to move on, but that doesn't mean we need to adapt to any specific scientific idea out there, especially not the ones introduced, overtly or covertly, by the global elite and their alien masters. Science is the knowledge of the universe, who we are, our place in it, the goal of a universe, how universes are born and how they die, the fact that we are both physical and spiritual as one, what stars, planets, nebulae, and galaxies really are, and combine that knowledge with who we are on a sub-quantum, metaphysical level, and what the purpose is if we combine all this and realize that we are all one. When this is understood by mankind, we will be able to raise our vibrations above the current low and break the prison walls. Only those who can match our vibration will stay with us in our incrementally achieved new reality. The questions are, if the above are the goals, where does AI, nanotechnology, and other advanced physics and mechanics come into the picture? Do these technologies enhance our consciousness, or do they do the opposite? Will we use technology wisely? These are very important questions that we need to discuss on a serious level. 2. The codes of consciousness. Things are going to be tough in the next few years for all of us. Some of it are staged events by ETS and their human cohorts, while other events are natural cycles of the cosmos. People will be highly affected in many different ways, and it's up to us how we are going to react. Those who have been prepared by doing their homework will have an easier time, while those who chose to remain ignorant are in for a big shock. This is a great opportunity for certain forces in the ET science community to come forward and offer solutions. The most amazing scientific new discoveries will be presented to humanity in an apparent effort to assist the situation. But of course it comes with a price, and I'm not only talking about money. There are these ET factions who want us to be dependent on technology, and many of our brightest minds here on Earth are supporting and working furiously on it. I can't help but stress enough what I personally don't believe in, and that is to be part of any future super-technological society. It's a trap. Instead, go inside yourself. Other programs will open up, which are currently sealed away. They are codes of consciousness, and there are things firing off these codes. From here on, things are going to happen rapidly, and catalysts in the environment, whether it's planetary events, or off-worldly by friendly ETS, will take consciousness on this planet to a totally new level. Those who go with the flow will find themselves on an island where the storm doesn't hit, no earthquakes reach and no hurricanes blow. Who will do this for us? No one but ourselves. We have this encoded inside of us, we are just waiting for these codes to activate and to be fired off, one by one, like a series of firework. But will everybody be ignited? Yes, everybody to a different degree. However, those who receive the changes with fear and anxiety will misinterpret what is happening and the codes may misfire and backflash. It's imperative, whether you agree with this or not, to set your goals to reach higher consciousness. I am painfully aware of that it's still not for everybody, and that is okay. Some humans want to continue experiencing the third density/dimension reality and go through all the hardship and continue into the machine world on the other end, and that is their choice. I know I wouldn't like it one bit, and my solutions papers will reflect this and tell you why. This time is about connecting with the cosmos and become multidimensional again. Most of those who have worked towards this goal have a subtle feeling that we have experienced this high in consciousness before, but we can't put our fingers on it. It's flashing up like a buried cell memory and then goes away. If you have had this flashback, it's one of many signs that you are starting to connect, because we certainly have been multidimensional before here on Earth, but we were tampered with by more than one species, by those who either wanted to create a slave race out of us, or by those who saw our potentials and wanted to take advantage of it and use it for their own survival. There are about 7 billion people on the planet right now, and that is just the right amount. We will not see an increase of people to 8 to 9 billions and beyond. We have more or less reached the maximum amount of people this planet will probably ever see. This is not an accident but per design. Everybody alive right now chose to be born into these times because of a tremendous group agreement that we made before we incarnated here in the so-called end times. All of us, no matter what we think, are either here to help raising the consciousness of the species and of the planet, or to just be here to feel it out of curiosity. Not everybody will make it through 2012, and you will see many people exit before then, often unexpectedly. This, too, is no accident. There are those who wanted to participate in this mass event, but not be part of the 2012 wave we will talk about later. Still, we are all here to help out one way or the other. We need this amount of people, 7 billion, to pull it off. It's the numbers that count for us to be able to create a new Earth. It's all about connecting energy. Be happy you have a body right now and take good care of it, because you are lucky to be here. There are lots of discarnate beings who wanted to be part of this as well, but not everybody gets a chance to have a body during the nanosecond. If you have one, feel fortunately you can't evolve without it. 3. How new alien technology will be introduced, creating split of the human race. We will see much more new alien technologies being released. Not all of them at once, but it will be done, step by step. Before we go on, we need to understand that when we're talking about science, there are different kinds. We have A. Mainstream science, B. Secret, or occult, science, C. Alien science, which includes Nikola Tesla science, that may be thousands of years ahead of mainstream science, D. Rogue science. Science is based on theory. Then it's up to the scientists to prove these theories. If it can be proven and replicated over and over, we have proven fact. This is how science has been working for hundreds of years, but now, when they are starting to look into smaller and smaller particles and enter the realm of quantum physics and mechanics, nothing is consistent anymore. You can't use the same formula to prove or disprove a theory, because everything is fluid, moving, and changing attributes and behavior. Moreover, quantum physics often has a tendency to prove old, solid science wrong. Nothing is black or white, and this is a huge problem for scientists. How can anything be proven anymore? What was true yesterday is not true today. Everything changes so rapidly, and if we are stuck in old, outdated thinking and behavior, our lives are going to be very dysfunctional, even if it worked okay not so long ago. However, in all this chaos, there will be fixes. High-tech enterprises will come out with technologies that can put some stability to the chaos. But these fixes have everything to do with the machine kingdom, which is planned to be introduced incrementally here on Earth until people get used to it and incorporate it into their lives step by step. We will see PhDs or authoritarian researchers/writers who promote this new kingdom as a solution for mankind, and many people will agree and follow. I will say there will soon be a split in mankind, and this has to do with the new technology. There will be those who go for it, and those who choose not to be part of it. Machines will blend with humans so that they will become part machine and part human. This is of course not real to many people today, but is nevertheless what is planned, which I will show. This is nothing new. There are ETs out there who have already fallen into this kind of reality by their own doing or had others do it to them. Now they are trying to implement this on humanity as well. Later on we will discuss why this is introduced. For now, control over consciousness may be a clue. The imposters, who want to introduce what we call artificial intelligence, AI, into society know how to do it. Just like with everything else they have introduced, which is for their gain and our loss, it follows a certain formula that seems to work on us humans most of the time. And with the risk of repeating myself here, this formula is based on fear. The formula itself is quite known to people who have looked into how the global elite work. It goes, problem, reaction, solution. In other words, to be able to end up with a solution which benefits you when you know that people in general would object to your proposal is to instigate a problem big enough to create a reaction among the general population and a demand to do something about it. Then you can introduce the solution to the problem you created in the first place, and the population will, due to fear of loss and perhaps reluctantly at first, adjust accordingly and accept your solution, and you get what you want. This formula, however, needs to be calculated precisely, because the problem created has to be in proportion to the solution you want to achieve. For instance, if the problem is too small, people may not think that the solution is worth it. A perfect example of this calculated, well-balanced formula, for those who haven't seen through this yet, is the 9/11 attack on the Twin Towers. The global elite commits a mass murder which traumatizes the whole nation. The media do their part and start feeding off the fear, saying that this can happen again, anywhere, anyplace, and anywhen. No one knows where the terrorists will hit next. So, here we have a problem, which was created, and we have the reaction, and now we can introduce the solution, which is a much tighter security and surveillance system. We live in an Orwellian 1984, Big Brother society, and many people welcome it out of fear from what would happen if they wouldn't. It works like a clock. So, if someone wants to steer us into a new direction, going towards a machine society and an acceptance of AI, it has to be done in increments. Hence, the imposters use what they have, and again feed off human emotions. Problem: young men and women go to war to fight for their country, which is another lie, and get their arms and legs shot off in the process. The media bring up the problem and run random stories of soldiers being severely wounded at war and how it affects them and their families. Reaction: people feel for the soldiers and their families and wish everything could be all right. Solution: the soldier gets a new prosthetic and joins up again. Of course, he has to pass the test, running so many miles with a heavy backpack etc., and he does it. This brave soldier, who doesn't give up fighting for what he/she thinks is right, can do so with this fantastic new technology. This is a story from real life, and it was brought up in the media last fall. So this is what technology has come to, and of course it's just the technology that has been released. There is so much more they haven't showed us yet. The moral of this story, though, has not so much to do with the soldier as how it affects our subconscious mind. We think that if they can fix up a soldier like that and he'll be as good as new, it's comforting in case we need prosthetics and artificial body parts ourselves in the future in order to survive. This is how they seduce us. It's like saying implants are good on babies, because they can't be stolen at the hospitals. And who is stealing the babies? Many of them are stolen by secret organizations to be used, either as sex slaves, breeders, mind-controlled assassins and more. So again, the solution is presented after first have created a problem. Many people chip their pets so they can be easily found, and it is a good thing in this particular sense, but when used on humans, there are darker agendas behind it, such as lowering people's vibrations, controlling your thoughts and behavior and much more. The machines can't come in without you, but after a while they don't need you. The Pleiadians. What we're going to end up with if we don't face the agenda behind this is that we will have machines that are many, many times smarter than we are. Isaac Asimov's old novel, I, Robot is not so far-fetched after all. Of course, being a world-famous sci-fi writer, he knew what he was writing about. Speaking of robots, what could be better, if you want to create a certain future, than to influence our kids and program them from early age? Brilliant! And that's of course exactly what is being done. How about robots as problem solvers? Cool, huh, children? Here is merely one example out of many how our young kids are being manipulated via cartoons, video games, and TV. How about a life inside a video game? This is where parents' responsibility is so important. By choosing to stay ignorant, parents must be held accountable for the programming of our children. Those who don't educate themselves and their children are just as responsible as the powers that be, who program them. Especially today, when there is so much information available, parents should know better. Instead, many parents turn a blind eye because it's convenient to let the kids play with electronics and watch movies which control their minds. Due to the lack of responsibility and interest in educating their kids, people, especially of the next generation, will be very excited and thrilled over all the new technology that is introduced, while others don't want to have anything to do with it. That's where the major split is going to happen. For those who choose the latter, what is happening in the machine world will be a perfect catalyst for them to really take the step, leave the functional insanity behind, and go back to nature and build new, small communities at first, which will grow in size, and join together as this develops. The fans of the machine technology will move into bigger cities where they can enjoy the new technology. It may feel fantastic at first when your needs are taken care of and you get the medical attention necessary, but you have to be chipped and you will soon become part machine. Eventually you need to plug yourself in to even start functioning, and you will connect to a virtual reality that is built on machine technology, a matrix within the matrix within the matrix. How far down the rabbit hole do we want to sink? Some may argue and say that the global elite and those behind them will not allow the rest to reject their machine society, but they will have no choice. It's all about vibration. Those choosing the machine world will do so because of underlying fear. They believe, whether they are aware of it or not, that by introducing higher developed technology into their lives, they have better chances of survival. However, it's only superficial, and this whole agenda fills a much bigger purpose. If the machine followers knew, and were willing to face their hidden fears, and clearly see what is really behind it and what the end goal is, they wouldn't be so thrilled. Those who choose not to participate will create their own, much less technologically based societies in their local universes and build their multidimensionality where it should be built, in biological bodies close to nature. The forces whose imperatives are to take over always feed off fear, and when I say feed I mean it in all its definitions. Beings of lower vibrations, whether they are human or not, are psychic vampires, and they get stronger by using the busy fear energy and enhance their own, in a large degree negatively oriented, energy field. It's food, and their survival depends on it. But what about space travel? Don't we want to be part of the galactic community and travel between the stars? Yes, we do, and we will. There are many ways to travel between the stars. It can be done with or without technology, or with minimal technology. Some aliens travel in 3D spaceships, using Einstein-Rosen bridges to go from one place to another, perhaps million light years away. Others use their avatars, or light bodies, while their 3D bodies are still left on the original planet. Others have the power to bring their original bodies with them. There are multiple ways to travel intergalactically. Also, I am not saying we are not going to use technology to travel. Technology in itself is not bad, it's only if it's used to manipulate and control that it is bad. However, before we even go there, we need to create a new world, a totally new society built on a higher frequency and level of understanding life and the universe. When we can do that, we can start thinking about space travel, and perhaps even time travel. Our environment, and how we use the technology we feel we need is in direct ratio to our level of consciousness. Which level of consciousness is TV, Twitter, text messaging, video games, Facebook addiction? Think about it. Some say we should be looking at a middle way, which would be the way to go, by using technology wisely, and that would all be fine and dandy, if we as a humanity were high enough in frequency to break out of the frequency fence we're currently stuck in and are all able to see what is done to us, presently. If we can't do that, we are going to see a split of humanity to begin with. There is no third way. 4. Protecting our biology. 250,000 to 300,000 years ago, our biology was hijacked. We were successfully cut off from the higher dimensions and densities and put in a frequency band which glued us, more or less, to the third density. Our DNA was tampered with in such a way that the whole Living Library project came to a definite halt and has been on hold ever since, as the new owners of this planet changed the policies. They were only interested in a slave race who could do the dirty work for them. We have been their slaves in one way or the other ever since. To call it something else would be false, and the arrogance with which they were, and still are, treating us is overpowering at best. Our responsibility now is to get back on track and not let anybody else own our biology to further develop a machine race or by genetically tamper with us again behind our backs to create new hybrids for new, updated purposes. And don't believe for a second that this is not already happening. The Greys are a perfect example of this, and human traders are working in secret bases such as Area 51 and others to create a new hybrid species. Our own human global elite and those who support them on lower levels have been working very hard the last decades or more to create this in conjunction with bands of different ETS. Many of us have listened to the whistleblowers and perhaps even seen some pictures of scary-looking hybrids in test tubes, being developed deep down in underground facilities, far from scrutiny, if it wasn't for the whistleblowers. This is not science fiction, it is happening on a grand scale as we speak. The good news is that we are supported on our quest to free ourselves from hundreds of thousands of years of slavery. Not all aliens have imperatives that clash with ours. In fact, most aliens, in terms of species agreements, imperatives, are here to help and assist in one way or the other. Like the Pleiadians say, cosmos is not malevolent, it's benign. The multiverse is there to guide you live in a friendly and supportive universe. They go on saying that there is of course those who want to manipulate us and work against our development as a species, and control us, but they are way fewer in numbers than those who would accept us with open arms. The Pleiadians are one of the latter, the Guardian Alliance another. Still, none of them are here to do the work for us while we're sitting on our behinds. It's up to us to do the work. I am going to discuss in details what this work includes later on, and the reason why I want to wait is because there are others, who want to push another solution on mankind, which I don't agree with. I want to present them side by side so to speak, so the reader can distinguish and make a conscious decision in what direction you want to go. In this space and time there are many forces from the cosmos, dimensionally, interdimensionally, from inner Earth, from the surface, other galaxies and even other universes, who pay interest in our development, because the living library is unique, the idea is unique. This can seem very overwhelming and overpowering for our limited ways of thinking to comprehend and meet without fear, but that's exactly what we need to do. To many, it will seem like a hopeless situation, because this group has this agenda, and that group has that agenda, while a third group, it seems like there's no end. However, when it really comes down to it, it really doesn't matter. We need to evolve in spite of these forces, learn who we are and how to raise our vibration and recognize the fear and anxiety within us, and learn to master these emotions and not tune into the vibrations that go along with these lower vibrations. Not until then can we break out from the frequency fence we're stuck inside. Even if it's not pleasant, we need to know what's out there, what the imperatives of certain ET groups are to be able to understand who we really are in this organized chaos, and then take appropriate, peaceful steps away from the battleground. Instead of taking sides in any given battle, we simply walk away and do our own thing, knowing the battle rages somewhere, but it's no longer part of our own local universe. That's our first step. 5. The Internet versus the Internet. Marciniak's Pleiadians are very clear. Over and over again, they emphasize how dangerous our electronic devices are, everything from cell phones and TVs to the Internet. They encourage us not to waste our time, and stop letting our lives depend on electronics. They would like to see us throw our cell phones away, only using computers minimally, if at all, and instead of letting Google be our all-knowing God, we need to go to our Internet instead of the Internet for answers, the Internet being our inner knowledge, our inner Google. We have all the answers inside, because we are part of all that is, of God's source, if you will. We need to start believing in ourselves and listen to our inner voice or intuition for answers. However, as long as we are addicted to electronics, yes, it is an addiction worse than heroin, we will not be able to reconnect with our Internet. This can only be successfully done in full when being in nature. We need to stay grounded in our bodies to become multidimensional. It's not a matter of leaving our bodies to seek enlightenment, the bodies are our guides and helpers. When we're talking about multidimensionality, we don't mean that we should become multi-D, we are multi-D. Not only our souls, but our bodies are multidimensional bodies. We use our bodies as extended nerve endings, and the 12 strand of DNA, representing each of the 12 chakras, is our ticket into the multiverse. Very few people on this planet know what their bodies can do. Here on Earth, at worst, we think that our bodies are us, and when our bodies die, we die, or at best, our bodies are our vessels, so that personality, mind, and spirit, us, can experience things in the third-dimensional physical reality. Still, the body is so much more than that. It has a wonderful cellular memory, it has soul memory and can be used for time and space travel in ways totally unheard of by most humans. Life is all about experiencing and learning in the reality where we incarnate. Although we were tampered with in a not-so-constructive way, our goal is to enhance the power in our bodies by reconnecting our dormant DNA, from 2 strands to 12 strands, which is what is currently occurring. On the other hand, the Pleiadians say that electronics could be used in a way that's not harmful, but the way we're using it now, in the hands of the wrong people, it is very destructive, all the way down to a cellular level. By introducing these technologies to our kids at an early age, we help setting the stage for them to meet their own demise in a not too far away future. Again, welcome to the Machine Kingdom, where illusion and deception are the names of the game, and the consequences are devastating. Our task is not to turn this around and start using electronics more responsibly, but again to step out of it altogether and develop our internet. It's like when you leave a lit-up house in the middle of the night and go outside, it takes a while before your eyes get used to the dark and you can see the stars. Still, the more time you spend away from any artificial light, the more stars, nebulae, and galaxies you can distinguish. Not until we have totally withdrawn from electronics can we appreciate nature and the elements again, and it takes some adjustment. At this juncture we have no other choice, and I don't say that in the sense that it would mean something necessary evil, but as part of a new, exciting journey. I used to live with nature all the time when I was younger, so I developed a very close relationship with it. I talked to the birds, the squirrels, the butterflies, the trees, and expected them to return my communication. And they did. I thanked Mother Earth for letting me take part of all her beauty and magic. When you are able to connect with your environment, realizing that it is all a part of you, and everything is unconditional love on a higher level of existence, life becomes very rich and fulfilling, and that to me is true happiness. I am still doing this on a smaller scale, hindered by work, research, and writing, currently, but that will hopefully change soon. In all honesty, I have never been happier than when I was living with nature. With that said, let's explore further the other side of the coin, the upcoming machine technology, our possible parallel future. The Wes Penre Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. http://wespenre.com. Present and Future Challenges, PFC, Section. PFC Paper Number 7, More on Artificial Intelligence, Increased Longevity and Nanotech, The Path of the Gods. By Wes Penre, Thursday, July 7, 2011. Part 2. 6. Welcome to the Machine Kingdom. Man and machine becoming one. There are geniuses in all areas of life. Raymond Kurzweil was a prodigy in machine technology and became a well-respected man in his field. In 1965, as a high school student, he was on Steve Allen's show, I've Got a Secret, and played a fascinating piece on the piano. Afterwards, the young boy was grilled on how that piece came together, and Kurzweil said it was done on a computer. This was unheard of at the time, when music was still made by people on real instruments. Furthermore, the young boy told the audience that he had built the computer himself. It was quite an impressive piece of work for its time, but the show panel, as usual, did not connect the dots, but instead of being fascinated by what Kurzweil had actually built, they focused on his young age. Time magazine wrote in February 2011. Kurzweil would spend much of the rest of his career working out what his demonstration meant. Creating a work of art is one of those activities we reserve for humans and humans only. It's an act of self-expression, you're not supposed to be able to do it if you don't have a self. To see creativity, the exclusive domain of humans, usurped by a computer built by a 17-year-old is to watch a line blur that cannot be unblurred, the line between organic intelligence and artificial intelligence. There we go. If I didn't know better, I would be in awe that such a genius is born and managed to become a front figure for the machine world technology. However, I know, and the reader who has followed my series of papers knows as well, that we all are born into this world by first setting goals for ourselves to accomplish in a certain incarnation. Of course, this is the case here as well. Today, Kurzweil believes we are getting close to the time when computers will become intelligent, but not just intelligent, but more intelligent than humans, compare the Pleiadian prediction above. And this is not something we says with regret, he looks forward to it, because this is what he, and many others working with him want. And not only that, they are working towards singularity, which means that man and machine become one. I would suggest you put the word singularity in memory, because not only will we discuss it here, you may have, or you will be hearing that word a lot. Kurzweil goes on saying that when the time comes when the machines exceed our own intelligence, our bodies, our minds, and our civilizations will be completely and irreversibly transformed. According to his own calculations, the civilization as we know it will end in 2045, that's when the machines will take over. This is no longer science fiction. It's not only Kurzweil setting up some delusive target of something that has nothing to do with reality, this is really something scientists are working on, and it's now getting all over the news, and we will be introduced to this by the media in a manner that we eventually will welcome it and look forward to it too. Many already do. The global elite know how to manipulate the masses. Some people, like myself and others, will fall between the crack and get away from it, so to speak, but they won't care. They will get what they want, and if a few refuse, so be it. You see, this has been planned for hundreds of years, and people can't see the cleverness of it all. The problem is that people can't think in terms that someone may set goals that span over several lifetimes, hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. It's not real to them, and those who are behind it know this. What is so hard to believe is that time is not the issue. Those who want to manifest this are next to immortal and not from this world. Furthermore, they don't live by our local time system, it's unique for Earth. If the mass population started to understand this concept, it would be easier to see through the agendas played out. Time magazine again, same article. So if computers are getting so much faster, so incredibly fast, there might conceivably come a moment when they are capable of something comparable to human intelligence. Artificial intelligence. All that horsepower could be put in the service of emulating whatever it is our brains are doing when they create consciousness, not just doing arithmetic very quickly or composing piano music, but also driving cars, writing books, making ethical decisions, appreciating fancy paintings, making witty observations at cocktail parties. And here are the punchlines, my emphases. If you can swallow that idea, and Kurzweil and a lot of other very smart people can, then all bets are off. From that point on, there's no reason to think computers would stop getting more powerful. They would keep on developing until they were far more intelligent than we are. Their rate of development would also continue to increase, because they would take over their own development from their slower-thinking human creators. Imagine a computer scientist that was itself a super-intelligent computer. It would work incredibly quickly. Maybe we'll scan our consciousnesses into computers and live inside them as software, forever, virtually. Maybe the computers will turn on humanity and annihilate us. The one thing all these theories have in common is the transformation of our species into something that is no longer recognizable as such to humanity circa 2011. This transformation has a name, the singularity. The difficult thing to keep sight of when you're talking about the singularity is that even though it sounds like science fiction, it isn't, no more than a weather forecast is science fiction. It's not a fringe idea, it's a serious hypothesis about the future of life on Earth. There's an intellectual gag reflex that kicks in any time you try to swallow an idea that involves super-intelligent immortal cyborgs, but suppress it if you can, because while the singularity appears to be, on the face of it, preposterous, it's an idea that rewards sober, careful evaluation. Here they are introducing the idea of singularity, first as something fantastic and amazing, but the more it will be discussed in the near future, the more incorporated these ideas will be with the common population. It is already happening, in fact. People are reading about it in magazines and newspapers and watch interviews on TV with brilliant inventors and scientists, but no one can wrap their heads around this concept. Yet, the concept is easy once the mind accepts to think in these terms. Our biological bodies as we know them will be obsolete. In the future, a body will be both biological and machine, and what happens then? The bodies are not sufficient enough to carry a soul fragment, human mind, personality, thinking unit. Like the same article above says, there are many theories about it, and one is that we humans will merge with the computers and become super-intelligent cyborgs. This is the goal. Of course, no one is telling you that the more machine-like a bio-mind becomes, the less chance someone can incarnate into it, which means there is no soul consciousness there. The consciousness which carries the intelligence will be artificial, thus, artificial intelligence, AI. The consequences should be obvious to the reader by now, but if not, and if you haven't already, read my PFC paper number 4, The Animus, Artificial Intelligence and Blank Slate Technology about the Animus Race. The idea of a machine society has been introduced to us, as usual, by all open channels thinkable, Hollywood being the most effective media if you want to reach out to the masses. Robots appear in almost any sci-fi movie worth its name since the 50s or so, but it has become more sophisticated over the last few years, where cyborgs often have taken the front seat in the plot. It started for real back in the 1980s, with Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator movies. Oh yes, this man, who later became the mayor of California, knew more what was behind the plot of these movies than people think. His goal is with the global elite and he admires Hitler, he wants to be a dictator. He's admitted to this. Since 3 years back, there is a Singularity University, which Kurzweil CO founded, hosted by NASA, with Google being a founding sponsor. We are still staying with Time magazine here for a while longer, just because it is an excellent article on an extremely important subject. I encourage the reader to read the whole article online at http://battlelearth.wordpress.com/2011/03/063/2045-the-man-becomes-immortal/, but I am selecting the highlights here to make my point for our further discussions. Here is a very interesting part. The singularity isn't a wholly new idea, just newish. In 1965 the British mathematician I.J. Good described something he called an intelligence explosion. Let an ultra-intelligent machine be defined as a machine that can far surpass all the intellectual activities of any man, however clever. Since the design of machines is one of these intellectual activities, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines. There would then unquestionably be an intelligence explosion, and the intelligence of man would be left far behind. Thus the first ultra-intelligent machine is the last invention that man need ever make. The word singularity is borrowed from astrophysics. it refers to a point in space-time, for example, inside a black hole at which the rules of ordinary physics do not apply. In the 1980s, the science fiction novelist Werner Ving attached it to Good's intelligence explosion scenario. At a NASA symposium in 1993, Ving announced that within 30 years, we will have the technological means to create superhuman intelligence. Shortly after, the human era will be ended. We've discussed earlier that most science fiction writers don't make up their stories from nothing, they have inside knowledge gained from association with the power elite. You wouldn't be published by the big publishers if you didn't have a story which could further enhance an agenda set by those behind the scenes. Here again, we have a science fiction writer speaking at a NASA symposium. The indoctrination and manipulation needs to have many outlets and the ideas introduced in increments to the masses from many different angles. Kurzweil has not been lazy since he appeared on TV in 1965. He has worked intensively on developing machine technology and AI ever since and received lots of rewards, holds many patents, and of course made himself a fortune. President Bill Clinton gave him the National Medal of Technology in 1999, and Bill Gates called him the best person I know at predicting the future of artificial intelligence. Kurzweil says that singularity is not just an idea, it attracts people, and those people feel a bond with each other. Kurzweil calls it a community. Once you decide to take the singularity seriously, you will find that you have become part of a small but intense and globally distributed hive of like-minded thinkers known as singularitarians. Singularitarians, who are increasing in numbers, believe in technology when to shape our future. And don't think twice about it, these people, who are almost obsessively pushing machine technology and singularity in particular, did incarnate here with the purpose of steering us in this direction. We will see many more people promoting this future, and our children who are growing up now during the nanosecond, if they are not educated as to what is happening, will fall into the trap. It's enough to go out for a walk or drive your car around, you will see teenagers everywhere texting and twitting at the same time as they are walking. Many of them are totally caught up in what they are doing and don't even notice what is happening around them. This world, which I am writing from, is beginning to cease to exist for the younger generation. I often see them in groups, where most of them are either on the cell phone or texting, not engaged in any conversation with their friends who are walking beside them. I have seen them many times crossing the street, forgetting to look for cars. It's come to a point where the drivers pay extra attention when they see teenagers coming, because they are aware of this problem. Parents have an enormous responsibility right now to educate their children and don't let them get all these new toys for their amusement. We live busy lives in a busy society, and it's easy to take a shortcut in letting the kids play around with their electronic toys so we get off the hook and can concentrate on important things that need to be done. We need to understand that this is all a giant setup where one thing is connected with another. We are kept busy so we don't get a chance to reflect. And if we're busy making a living in an incredibly fast pace, we don't have time for our children in the way we ought to. When this happens, we need to step back and reflect, we have no choice. If we only slow down for a while, we'll see what we're caught up in and hopefully we'll understand the seriousness of it. When things around us speed up, it's our duty to slow down. The children are our future. And if we choose to look the other way and think that electronics is just the signs of our times and human progression, we are helping forces who have no empathy for us as a species, but only to implement their own imperatives on us, imperatives which eventually will cause our demise as biological entities. We have been asleep for millennia, but now we have no choice but to wake up. This whole thing with machine technology and singularity leads to another subject, which goes hand in hand with the former. It's about longevity and immortality. The Singularity University holds annual summits, and the following was discussed during the 2010 summit. After artificial intelligence, the most talked about topic at the 2010 summit was life extension. Biological boundaries that most people think of as permanent and inevitable singularitarians see as merely intractable but solvable problems. Death is one of them. Old age is an illness like any other, and what do you do with illnesses? You cure them. Like a lot of singularitarian ideas, it sounds funny at first, but the closer you get to it, the less funny it seems. It's not just wishful thinking, there's actual science going on here. This is what I mean when I say the world will split into two. The machine world and the world of natural evolution. Death is something many people are afraid of, only because it's a mystery, they don't know what will happen. Still, with a little research, it's easy to find out that death is not something to fear, quite the opposite. I have written a lot about it in previous papers. However, the fear of not existing anymore and the loss of relatives and friends, another falsehood, make people attracted to ideas like singularity, where their lifespan can be extended with many extra years, and perhaps by then, technology has come to a point where immortality is possible. You can see where this is going. It's a trap, because what they are creating are an artificial, super-intelligent race, which can be programmed as a hive community, where all is one in an artificial way, and where everybody is becoming disconnected from source energy. Their intelligence is synthetic but intelligent, emotionless, and soulless. Your spirit/information cloud can no longer manifest. Is this the future we want? If people really thought about it this way, who would want it? The problem is that those who fear death so much that they fall for this won't even read papers like this. Still, it's their choice. In a free will universe, like our own, anything goes, but there are always consequences/karma in everything we're doing. There are no free rides. The alternative, of course, is to evolve naturally, without machine technology at all. We have our biological body, our mind, and our soul working together to find enlightenment in higher realms of existence through experiences and cognition. Our DNA is reactivating more and more as we learn, and we will learn to become multidimensional again, with and due to our thoughts and emotions, not without them. The choice for me is easy. 7. Artificial life created, called Cynthia. An article was published, originally in Science, that researchers have constructed a bacterium's genetic software called Cynthia, and transplanted it into a host cell. The resulting microbe then looked and behaved like the species dictated by the synthetic DNA. This team of scientists was led by Dr. Craig Venter of the J. Craig Venter Institute, JCVI, in Maryland and California. The scientists have put two methods together to create a synthetic cell. As soon as this new software goes into the cell reads it and converts into the species specified in that genetic code. This is the first time any synthetic DNA has been in complete control of a cell, said Dr. Venter. New Industrial Revolution. What this means is that science has revealed they are now able to create synthetic life forms, which paves the way for designer organisms that are built rather than evolved. They are now about to be able to build life from scratch, the new human. Michio Kaku, professor of physics, and well known by many for his bestseller, Parallel Worlds, went live on Fox News, comparing this new revelation like the biggest discovery since the splitting of the atom. He compares it with downloading apps to a cell phone, and in this case they took a cell from a goat and downloaded new DNA which they then programmed, but yes, they used human DNA as well. The point is, says Professor Kaku, that it is artificial. Both him, Dr. Craig and others are promoting this as a potential solution, or partial solution, to global warming. Even the oil industry is interested. But none of these scientists are really discussing the ethical and moral parts of this in any great details. What else can it be used for? When asked about the ethical issues, they say these have been discussed in details among the scientists. Where? Behind locked doors? The details of these discussions have not, as far as I can tell, been made official. But just the mentioning of having discussed them calms most of the population down, they believe. And they are correct in that. People can go back to sleep. When asked by the Fox News reporter if this is not some kind of Jurassic Park experiment, Kaku reassures us that you can recall a car, for example, but not a life form. In other words, he says it's not going to be used to replicate the human biokind, although he admits to that this kind of research can have unintended consequences. Keiku is still on the fence regarding this research, he says. I would say, no, he's not. He is working for the Machine Kingdom and is their spokesperson in popular media. He has the charisma necessary to seduce the masses, and this is what he is being used for. By being on the fence, he can attract those who are being on the fence and eventually win them over. To put this in a metaphysical perspective, the Pleiadians, in a lecture from 2010, tell us that there are time jumpers, people from our future who are returning to our time to steal human female eggs and interfere with our evolution because they themselves have become totally synthetic life form, like metallic skeletons we see in sci-fi movies. They come to try and re-establish their DNA to become biological entities again. These entities, on one of our future timelines, took the microchip, the brilliance of electronics, and abdicated their own biology. Anyone can make any decision they want, but what I like to stress is that we are at a crossroads right now where we have to decide which way to go, and whatever choice we make, we have to live with the consequences. Before we make any decision, it's therefore very wise to consider all the factors involved. The Pleiadians also bring up Cynthia in a few of their lectures, and although this story got kind of buried by the media after a while, the Pleiadians see it as a tipping point in the human history. It's the catalyst forcing us to make a choice. Very soon, more sophisticated information will be released. Of course, it's already researched and ready to go, all that is needed is to seduce humanity into accepting it. Michio Keiku and cohorts, we will see more and more of your kind in the very near future, spamming our news channels and in series like those on the Discovery Channel. 8. Smurfs Village. If we as grown-ups start thinking about this, it's quite astonishing. While the parents are doing something else, the kids are playing on Smurfs Village on iTunes. This game is about getting the most Smurf berries. That's how you become the most powerful person in this game. But don't think it's free. Here is the price list. 1. Bucket of Smurf, $4.99. 2. Bushel of Smurf B, $9.99. 3. Barrel of Smurf B, $24.99. 4. Bucket of Smurf, $4.99. 5. Wagon of Smurf B, $99.99. 6. Bushel of Smurf B, $11.99. 7. Wheelbarrow of, $49.99. 8. Wheelbarrow of, $59.99. 9. Barrel of Smurf, $29.99. There was an article at MacLife and other places, where this horrendous game was exposed. An 8-year-old child charged their parents' credit card for $1,400 to buy delicious Smurf berries. In a game that is designed for 4-year-olds, who normally can't read. But this is no exception. Children, as early as at the age of 5, have racked their parents' credit cards. Let's stop here for a while and reflect. First of all, think back when you were 5 years old. Most people couldn't read at that age, much less have the grasp of how to use a credit card. We didn't even know what it was and how money worked, other than we perhaps got a small allowance to buy a magazine or some candy. These kids, however, are very profound and know how to do these things. It's not a coincidence, it's per design. Babies are born into this era to play out theirs and our collective karma, much of it going back to the Atlantean era, where technology eventually, to a large degree, caused its destruction. These babies, when they grow up to be little kids, know instinctively how to use technology. We, as parents, can only watch in awe. What takes us a long time to grasp, they get the hang of in a few seconds. If you as an adult need help to fix your electronic device, don't go to the manufacturer, go to your kids, they can fix it in no time. These little kids will be the front people in the new Machine Kingdom. As a side note, let's go back to Smurf Village. What do you get for $1,400? A lot of Smurf berries. What are they? Expensive, wonderfully tasting berries? No, they are nothing. Just imaginary berries in an electronic game. But to the kids, these berries are real. This is what machine technology does. People start living in a totally new matrix, which is electronic in nature. They disappear into a computer screen and start living the holographic life inside of it and forget the life outside. Many parents may recall the times when they had to drag the kids from the computer games, the iPods, cell phones, etc. And when they return to your reality, they are not very responsive. They want to go back to the other world, which is more appealing to them. Can anyone see where this is intentionally leading to? And how can someone get away with selling illusionary smurfberries for a shocking price to 4-year-old and up without going to jail? The scary part is that the consciousness of the kids transfer into the computer screen, and this virtual reality becomes conscious. This is not science fiction, as you can see, it happens now. Wars are raging on the planet as usual, that's nothing new. But there is another, more covered electronic war going on behind our backs, that in the extension is much more devastating. 9. WikiLeaks and a flashback to the Atlantic technology era. Fairly recently, from the time I write this paper, WikiLeaks leaked a lot of supposedly classified information, some 90,000 pages, among other things, of what was going on in Pakistan and so forth. Everybody was all wound up about this and wanted to know what was in these papers. But after a while we noticed that it wasn't that hot and exciting, really. It wasn't so much about what was released but what these 90,000 papers represented, of what could be leaked. What is there if you push buttons and know how to do it? Because today, everything is stored along electronic highways. Things have changed rapidly since the computers were introduced in society and the internet became accessible to almost everybody on the planet. Of course, much of this is alien technology, received during TTPs, technology transfer programs, but there is more to all this. It's an old dramatization, an old civilization once again coming to life. Back in the Atlantean era, if we talk about the Atlantean era as the time just before the deluge, there were more than one Atlantis and they were not all in this dimension or on this planet. The Anunnaki had a similar technology, with electronic highways. They had their records, their blueprints, their patterns to build civilizations, to map the heavens, to understand agriculture, metallurgy, etc. They stored this information on something they called me, pronounced, mesh, like in she. And they fought over them, punishing each other with death penalty sometimes, if they stole another's master me. If you recall, I wrote about this in the Anunnaki papers, when Anzu stole the me to the supercomputer system from the Enlil, and eventually was punished with a death sentence. The Anunnaki stored their history and everything on me, it was all recorded. The problems they had was that just like us, they had secret information stored there, which those who were not initiated wanted to take part of, so there was a constant struggle to keep this information safe. In this respect, nothing has changed. We are still playing the same games as the gods of old. It may not be so strange when we realize that some of them are still here. However, if we continue playing the games they set up for us, we will not only bring about a new Atlantis, with all its negative sides, leading to another disaster, but this time it will be 10 times worse. Long before the American Revolution, when Freemasonry and the Rosicrucians took over America, the dream of the new Atlantis had already been planned in secret behind the scenes for hundreds of years, officially, and thousands of years, unofficially. Francis Bacon wrote about the vision of the new Atlantis 20 and that it would be set up in the future. Manly P. Hall, the honorary Freemason 21, who was perhaps the leading expert of Masonry all times, also wrote about the new Atlantis, and that it was finally accomplished by the takeover of the North American continent, which eventually became the United States of America. Hall was potentially murdered for leaking information that was supposed to be held secret. We owe much to this fantastic scholar. I said took over America in the last paragraph, because that's of course what happened. This was Native American land, which was brutally raped and plundered by so-called civilized men, and whole invaluable spiritual cultures were destroyed to the core, and only remnants of the old wisdom of the native Indians live on. We got our Atlantis, all right, and Bacon would maybe have been able to finish his book if he were alive. Now, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to let history repeat itself? 10. Technology and longevity. Longevity is the big issue for humanity, at least for those in power who serve the gods. How can we extend our lifespan and become immortal, just like the gods? Immortal in the sense that we can live perhaps 1,000,000 years or more. The writer and researcher, Nigel Kerner, writes, "A body vastly enhanced through biotech and nanotech may suffice to extend lifespans indefinitely, but the ultimate leap is to transcend biology entirely." Before 2050, Kurzweil predicts that AI and nanotech will have advanced so far that his brain, with its memories, capabilities, and characteristics, can be reduced to pure information and rebooted in a non-biological format, be it a supercomputer, a real or virtual body, or a swarm of nanobots. Being third-density beings, we have separated ourselves from the cosmos, and our longevity has decreased since ancient times. Now we're coming down to a point where we are building our world on itsy-bitsy pieces called nanoparticles. But what has happened is that all this exploration into the nano is creating tremendous problems in the food supply. In people's bodies, you have these nanoparticles, and these nanoproducts. Nanotechnology was not approached with any care at all, and this is going to create a very devitalized probability in the future for those who will be unable to extricate themselves or to pull their energy away from that probability and move towards a different one that is more connected to the cosmos and connected to nature. Science are talking about junk DNA, and have no clue that in that is the solution. We don't need any kind of technology to activate our dormant DNA, and we will go into this in depth in a future paper. The less technology-oriented we become, the more the DNA can reconnect with the cosmos, so instead of adding technology to improve our lives, we should diminish it. And we don't need nanotechnology to extend our lives, it is done in a natural way, something for scientists to think about. Dr. Borden, in his essay, The Link, he reveals that the Nibiruans are extending their lives significantly, and are becoming in oneness as a species, probably because of nanotech, and they are inhaling gold to extend their lives as well. Now they want to introduce these technologies here on Earth, so at least the elite and those who can pay for it get a longer life than the poor guy with minimal wage, who is standing on his feet all day at McDonald's under tremendous stress. And who are the ruling elite, the powers that be, really? Think about it. They are 13 main ruling families of tremendous fortune, and they interbreed with each other. Why do they want to keep their bloodline so intact? The answer, of course, is easy. These families, who are set here to rule while the A.A.M.I. Nibiruans are gone elsewhere, are all A.A.M.I/Anunnaki hybrids. At least half, probably more, of their genome is Anunnaki. Then it's easy to see what the Anunnaki traits are. Just watch the global elite to understand the Anunnaki mindset. Alex Collier wrote an excellent article as well on this subject, which you can read here. http://battleleverearth.wordpress.com/2010/alex-collier-on-hyphen-reptilians-control-concept/right Are you one of these people who has a hard time looking at details as you drive, do data entry on the computer at work, when you have a job situation which requires multitasking? In situations like these, are you making errors and feel stupid that you never learn? It requires a whole different consciousness to be detail-oriented in this high-tech society with fast pace and multitasking than it does if you take your horse and ride out on the prairies for 5 days. The details you pay attention to are very different from these in the high-tech society. Some people have a very easy time adjusting to high-tech and their brains can do all these fast things simultaneously, not a big deal for them. But people like myself, whose mind is multidimensionally oriented, where nature, beauty, slower pace and with my mindset on details far different from these in today's society, have a hard time adjusting, and also a reluctance and resistance to it. I want less of that, not more. Would you agree? 3D reality has come to a dead end. Like the Pleiadians say, it has nowhere to pull its juice from. Pleiadian Lecture August 13, 2011 to August 14, 2011, Awakening to the Sun, CD 3, Track number 5. People are mixed up and can't find their meaning in life, they don't know how to heal themselves anymore. It's true that our biology was tampered with and our lifespan reduced significantly as they went on with their experiments. They didn't want us to live too long either, because we multiplied uncontrollably. The Bible talks about how humans, hybrids, actually, lived for 900 years or more, sometimes thousands of years, such as the patriarchs, who had to live a long time to be able to complete their tasks, but some Anunnaki were not pleased with the increase of the human population. We became cumbersome to handle and they let most of us be wiped out by the flood. It's been known for a long time, and I've been writing about it and posted relevant articles on http://illuminati-news.com, that the power elite want to reduce the population, some say to a manageable 500 millions. How do they do that? By war, famine, and disease? Weather control and vaccination? Yes, that's part of it, but it won't do the trick. The elite are basically waiting for prophecy to take effect. That will reduce the population drastically. For the survivors, and there will not be many if they get their ways, the new technology is now introduced and the future visualized. What the power elite and their masters apparently seem to want is a population big enough to control, united with technology and made into half machines, half human, or perhaps 100% synthetic, with no means to mass produce. What Nigel Kerner is talking about in his article, above, is how the use of nanotechnology and biotech will complete the cycle and humanity will merge into oneness. Again, where have we heard that before? Remember Dr. A.R. Borden's The Link? On page 55, he says that in one of the Link plenum meetings with off-world beings, he heard a spokesman for the Nibiruans saying that their species have almost completed their cycle into oneness, probability with the help from nanotech. I am quoting Dr. Borden. A.A.mis2 have been undergoing the changeover from disconnected body minds to a common, or a bio-mind of the whole biokind. It is reported by members who have attended the conferences that they are near the completion of their cycle to oneness, wherein all knowledge and mind resources are used in service to the common. This, it was said, can only be possible when the diversity of biominds of each member remains an individuality while simultaneously being interconnected to the A.A.me. All one by low-powered, low-energetic means that utilizes the planet's life belt energetics, something akin to what Earth enjoys in the form of Schumann resonance. There is yet much we don't quite understand about their system of oneness, as there are technologies used to enhance the common biomind that are beyond our level of technology at this time. However, we do now possess a theoretical understanding of how it all works. To me, as I've said before, it's not a desirable way to evolve as a species. I am not subscribing to neither nanotech nor biotech or any other tech I am aware of to evolve our species. They are manipulating us into becoming a hive society, where all minds work as one, controlled by an alien race. Longevity is one thing, technology another. I agree with that. Living 70 to 90 years is too short, and we should be able to live much longer than that. Yes, that can be accomplished with technology, and perhaps to some degree by inhaling monatomic gold, like the gods do, but there are indications that gold can be highly addictive, just like cocaine and narcotic substances. The way to achieve a longer life is to develop our sleeping DNA so we will become multidimensional again, and also live considerably longer. But how long? If we think about it, it really doesn't matter that much. Who wants to live for 1,000,000 years in the same body? With a lifespan like that, things can go terribly wrong. If you have direct access to your memories from what happened 1,000,000 years ago, on your own timeline, where you created certain events, you are too involved and affected by whatever situations you have gotten caught up in, and often intensify them as you move further in local time. This may even be one of the problems with the A.A.M.I. We don't want to be another Anunnaki species, where petty wars and childish vanity are big parts of their lives because the gods are bored. I believe we need to end a lifetime after a certain amount of years, considerably shorter than that of the gods, whom achieved extended life through technology. We need to have time to reflect and sort things out between incarnations, in my opinion, and make new goals in a new unit of time. As we move higher up in frequency, this issue will probably resolve automatically. What about if the gods are not able to evolve the same way we are? Perhaps they were not created to be able to do that because their creator gods created them for their purpose, which was not to have them evolve and ascend like us. So they use machine technology to reach what we can do naturally. They want our basic biology, but can't merge it with their own, because their biological structure is different. They can only evolve up to a certain point. Knowing that there is no way they can reach our potentials, they do what they can with their own genome, but on the other hand, they are created for power and control, so therefore they can't accept that we evolve differently from them. Besides, they feed from the fear they are creating in us and we are their food source. They don't want us to evolve, because when we're out of their frequency fence we are out of reach for them. They manipulated our DNA so that we wouldn't evolve and ascend easily, but our 12-strand DNA was already in our bodies, and they, to their own misfortune, only have 11 strands. This, I believe, is that we have to face. We have a lot of Anunnaki DNA inside of us, but we also have DNA from the earlier, more spiritually uplifted gods, with our junk DNA still inactivated to its full potential. Do we want to become like the Anunnaki, and achieve longevity by taking shortcuts through nano and biotech, or do we want to use free-flowing, fluid energy to reach higher forms of existence? In addition, knowing how it usually works, artificial longevity through bio and nanotech may be something only available for the elite. They are already getting older than the average man, if you've noticed, e.g. Bush Sr., David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, and the virtual machine world. The cyborg existence may be for the masses. Whatever it may be, it gives me the shivers. The question is, what future do we dream? With this I mean both in an awake state and in dream state. We have prophecies, but not everything is predestined. By deciding our future and dreaming it up, we create it. Like-minded will create a like-minded future. Another big concern from my point of view is how the technology achieved by TTP's number can be used for warfare. What would stop the people who have access to this technology to create super soldiers? This concern is very real. Look at the drones they are using already. It's Stone Age in comparison, but we can see in what direction things are going. It's therefore, in my subjective opinion, with all the above mentioned, discouraging to see respected researchers and writers like Neil Freer, who have done a great job with exposing alien visitors who have been worshipped as gods in our past, and still are, and awoken people from the god spell we've been under, to promote artificial intelligence like he does on his website. I encourage people to read it to make up their own minds, but I personally think he's on a dangerous path, and I hope people who have now woken up from the god spell also will wake up from the artificial intelligence spell. Dr. Borden and LPGC have worked on longevity for about a decade, and Borden replied to a comment on one of my blog entries about Ray Kurzweil with the following statement. We are already becoming immortal small steps at a time. We started a program 10 years ago designed to achieve longevity and the know-how to access, affect, and when necessary change the information bandwidth of our RNA-DNA. You can read about this quiet revolution in the coming Lunge Vitality of the Earth Human Biomind, Lulu Press, lulu.com. Immortal is one of those words poorly used. Often it's used to mean long living instead of never dying. Theoretically, a biological entity can be immortal provided certain things are part of the genetic makeup of the body of that person. But for us today, we function on chromosomes that contain some 31,000 genes, plus some 3,000 genes in our mitochondria, and we biologically exist on 20 base amino acids. That's us today. Question is, what can each of us do, instead of relying on what Kurzweil and the singularitarians propose, Let's use technology to enhance and prolong our lives, such that the people will say we can be immortal. Good press, but that's about it. If we use a generation, 25 years, as a measure and begin teaching our kids what we started teaching the members of the experimental groups in our study, starting some 10 years ago, how do we tell if their lives are being prolonged? Well, you can't well tell by using linear time. You have to go to other ways. One is the bioelectricity of the body, which is a good measure of the bioelectric age of a person, which is not the same as the time linear age in years, or revolutions around the sun. This measure can be given a larger frame of view, lunge vitality, or the amount of energy we have and keep at various points as bioelectric age by comparison to one's linear age. So you have a 60-year-old woman who has the body of a 42-year-old female, or a male who is 71 but has the body of a 54-year-old male. The know-how I mentioned before is the how to get to change your bioelectric age by using a number of ways to intervene on our bodies/minds to get them to restore or even gain electrostatic energy in our cells, exercise routines that, combined with nutritional regimes fitted to the physical needs of a person, can result in body mass retention of the good kind, more protein, less body fat, keeping the numbers in the good range, triglycerides, LDL, LDH. All of this is possible. It takes a conscious decision and information. All of the people participating are not rich, quite the contrary, they are middle class and also people working at McDonald's paycheck to paycheck. The thing that changed is their life mind time applied to keeping the body optimal, how they handle stress, how they consume health information that translates into what they need to do for themselves, to keep in track of what each of them want to do for their body/mind, their families, etc. My argument with Ray is that relying on technology assist to reach instant lunge vitality doesn't necessarily give us the time to change the minds, belief systems, by which we live. That requires at least 3 generations, or 75 years. However, it is also possible to accelerate the bioelectric transformation of a generation and see in 10 years some results that encourages the soul. On the average, 6.5 retro years in 10 years of participation. Let me translate this. This means experimental group participants are gaining an average of 6.5 years in bioelectric terms, so if a man was 50 when he joined and his wife was 47, subtract 6.5 from their linear ages and that will tell you the bioelectric age of the person. This, in my opinion, is a much better way to achieve a longer lifespan, that in conjunction with activating the dormant DNA, which will automatically make us live longer. 11. A multidimensional perspective on nanotechnology. Time, we know it, is a local custom, something we have talked about earlier. In reality, on a multidimensional level, all time happens simultaneously, and so do our incarnations. We send out a number of soul fragments who incarnate simultaneously in different places in different times per local custom. What happens now and will happen in the near future, if we are still speaking of technology, is nothing spontaneous. In certain terms, certain beings set up things already millions, sometimes billions of years ago to play out at a later time. Therefore, on a multi-D level, the violence and technology spurts were planned to happen at certain local times, an easy task for beings who can look at things from another perspective than we presently can, trapped in the local time system. So we have the Atlantean time with all its technology and violence, we have the Incas and the Aztecs, and the violence connected with them, we remember Hitler and Nazism, and last, but certainly not the least, we have the US government playing gods, dramatizing the Atlantean period, which is now being relived again to give us a chance to clear a 10,000s of years old collective karma. Each civilizations, whether they happen now or happened in the past, go through their peak time of violence and aggressiveness, although it is all happening at once from a multi-D perspective. Just as every culture's genesis and flourishing is happening at once as well. The Pleiadians asked an interesting question in one of their lectures, related to the above, which one of the civilizations will meet at the supernova point? The supernova point being the point in 2012, when the wave of enlightenment will hit us, I'm sure being the same wave LPGC are talking about, which I discussed in an earlier paper. The answer is, all of them will, because time is simultaneous. And timelines will merge by 2012 and are already in the process of doing so. Technology and certain key events that were, and are, meant to happen are hidden on certain frequencies. Just like we hide what we don't want others to find in locked cabinet, bank vaults etc., multidimensional beings in the past, in our term, hid what was not meant to be found right away on different frequency levels, and when certain people, or a percentage of the population, reached that frequency, what was hidden was suddenly found. This is another perspective of alien technology. Great inventors, like Nikola Tesla, ingenious scientists like Albert Einstein, thinkers like Pythagoras etc., have been said to have had alien invention with their discoveries. This is certainly true, but on much more levels than most can imagine. Many metaphysical sources mention the Anunnaki having encoded our DNA as well, so that at a certain time, certain codes are activated so that we start inventing new technology or whatever they want us to achieve at a specific level of our development. This is what could be called predestiny, if you will, but remember that predestiny only works when consciousness is sleeping. If we wake up to the fact that we have been programmed, and that we live in a free will universe, something the gods have tried to neglect in our case, trying to make us predictable in certain terms, we will see it's easy to step off the road we're traveling on, watch the lorries roll by, tighten our backpack and walk in the opposite direction, away from the road, and out in the unexplored wilderness. After a while, the sound of the lorries and cars rolling by fade out and disappears. No one can force us to go in any direction than the one we choose. Not when we have decided and put our energies towards it. It may sound too fantastic, but it's really basic, and it is working. Make a wish list if you want to, put down what you really want for yourself and ask those around you to do the same. Then make this wish list come true, item by item, by manifesting the thoughts in this reality. Once you do this, without using any effort, just light thoughts, your reality will change. Put your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and your certainty behind the fact that this is how your life is going to be from now on, and nothing less than that. However, be realistic and don't make wishes that are too way out there. I think you get the picture. Be clear and feel gratitude for what you have, and when you make wishes for your present and your future, do so without creating counter-intentions telling you why this or that is too hard to accomplish, e.g. what will my parents say, what will happen with my friendship with John, etc. These objections, or counter-intentions are exactly what keep people from achieving their goals. Your goals are your goals, and you have the perfect right to achieve them. Actually, it is your responsibility to do so, because that's what you're here for. We can choose not to, and no god or devil will punish you, but you will waste our time. Every day we wake up, it's an excellent idea to set the direction for the day. Say to yourself, this day is going to be a great day where everything is working out to my favor, better than I can imagine. This really sets the tone. Just think the thought, manifest it and let it go. After a while, by doing this every morning, you will see how your life changes to the better. So why am I bringing all this up while talking about machine technology? Because, like with everything, technology can either enhance life or be used to control and enslave. What we have gone over in this paper is how certain forces want to use it, and are using it. Do we want it? Is it ethical? Moral? If you would choose, is that the future you want to see? Or does the multidimensional future, using the third eye and the heart chakra in particular, sound like a more exciting journey?